Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am super excited to have my friend Heather Keys, aka Hypno Heather, with me tonight. Hello, Heather. How are you?
Hello, great. It's so great to be here. I'm so glad that we made it, the divine timing happened for us to connect.
Right. I think you were like one of the first people that I was like, I want to interview you. And then life happens, and but here we are. I love it, right? It all happens in divine timing, just like you said.
Totally.
Yeah, though when I knew that I wanted to interview was because I want to get into who Heather is. But just before I get there is, so Heather has this community group, and I recently joined it. And the first hypno session I did with her, which was my first ever hypno session, by the way, you started in the beginning, you said, I actually unhypnotize people. And you had me at that statement. I was like, oh, girl, here we go. This is exactly like what I need to be a part of. I need to share what you are doing. So yeah, Heather, how long have you been doing hypnosis?
Oh, wow. Well, actually, this August was my 11th year. This is my 11-year anniversary from the time that I took my training, my very first training, which is also the time that I started. Like I left that training and just anytime someone would tell me about a problem they had, I'd be like, I can help you with that.
Love it. I love it. I didn't realize it had been that long. I mean, you're very, very well known in the city that we live in. It's funny, anytime people talk, it's like, oh, do you know who Hypno Heather is? And I'm like, dude, I know Heather. Like, I know Heather from like way back when. Like, we go back. You're one of my most absolute favorite DJs of all time. Like,
Yes.
we have been
Heather, pre-hypno Heather.
pre-Hypno Heather, yeah. When you were hypnotizing us with the beats.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes
Yeah.
I remember how I used to like go on the mic and like say inspirational things.
Oh, yeah, man, those days. Oh, those were the days.
Those were the
Yeah.
days.
So, and we've got kids like around the same age. So yeah,
Mhm.
our circle has been pretty tight.
Mhm.
Through all this, we kind of like had lost touch. But then it's funny how this last 3 years has really shown you like true colors of people and divided people, but also really brought people together. And you're one of the people that we kind of got brought back together and, experienced a lot of the same stuff.
Mhm.
We can relate to a lot of the same things. I mean, a lot of our parenting ways, I guess. I've got a really bad lag. Sorry, guys. My computer's really lagging. But so we have a lot of the same parenting, both of us parent quite similar, like we never those types of things. So it's funny how like people would be like, I can't believe you. And it's like, we had this conversation. We're like, well, dude, we've never done that. Like,
Oh, and that's where Unhypnotized Ventures, which is my corporation, was born because it became so clear to me over time that I'd spent in this idea of using hypnosis as a way for healing, but also becoming really clear that what we actually do in hypnosis is just sort of drop the veil, so to speak, or like drop the veils of illusion that keep us thinking that we aren't enough, or thinking that there's something wrong with us, or thinking even that we don't have the innate wisdom to heal,
yeah,
you
like
know?
seriously, your whole idea on unhypnotizing people is like, to me, it's like revolutionary. Like, this is exactly where we are at right now, on so many levels. Like,
Yeah.
your most recent, sorry, my little guy, it's like, if you can hear that, it's his bedtime. His sisters are supposed to help me. So I apologize, mom life.
Yeah.
But so to go into a little bit more about your community that you have, the community session that the most recent one that you did, I actually, surprisingly, so I messed up on dates. This was supposed to happen last night. Heather was so gracious to like reschedule for tonight because this whole week has just been like, I don't know what day it is. So I actually, when we didn't land out doing last night, I was like, oh, I have the time to actually go now because I didn't make it to the live. So I was able to do it last night. And again, it was like, man, this woman knows exactly like what we need to be hearing right now. And to go further, like, so the card that I pulled today in my Beyond Lumerian cards, like I can't even make this up, Heather. Journey to wholeness. Love from a sense of wholeness. We may have concepts of others that are not really who they are due to subconscious projections or ideas. We have the idea that we will feel better about ourselves when we achieve a goal or status. This takes us out of the present and puts conditions on love. Hold the vision that you and others are already perfect. Thus, we can heal through the transformation power of acceptance, a knowledge full spectrum, and bring fractured parts back to the present moment. Here we are whole, empowered, and step into the brightest versions of ourselves. Like, this was actually part of a reading I did for a friend of mine, but as soon as I pulled it, when I was telling him the reading, I'm like, dude, this is exactly what my friend Heather, this is what you did in your last session. Like,
oh my God. Oh my God.
Right? Like, you can't make this stuff up. It's just like, do you want to talk a little bit about what that session, like, what that meant to you?
I'm so glad you watched it before today, because that session was lit. Like, that session poured out of me, and it came from, I'm not surprised about that connection even with the card, because what I told myself in offering these free community sessions and starting the text messaging community was that I'm gonna let myself just be a channel for whatever everyone needs to hear that month.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna overthink it or overplan it. I'm gonna just let it come out of me, which is generally, honestly, how I work. But some things have more structure. And that message was coming so strong. And I'd actually done a reel on Instagram, and then in my coaching work, which is transformational, like, which is really again beyond hypnosis, into this idea of how we are all as humans whole and well. And when we sit in a space with someone, knowing that you're well, you're whole, I'm well, I'm whole, there's a neediness that falls away. And whenever there's less neediness, there's more abundance.
Yeah.
And two, there's less of us having to like my whole theory is like, if, being whole, knowing that we're whole is a superpower, because we're not manipulated by marketing. Like, we're not easily sold that we need something outside of ourselves to be well,
Yeah.
And so this has been, well, because we've been talking about this, and because like, we can see how having that grounding is so protective. Having the grounding that we are whole and we have access to our own wisdom, and we can find, like, we'll be guided along the way, is so protective, because it leaves us less vulnerable to manipulation in any form, relationships, the world, social media.
Yeah.
And so in my own coaching, I'd had a breakthrough with a client in a supervision session that I was in my coaching school. And it just grounded that in me even more this week. And I'm a firm believer that, when we do our own when we're on our own path of self-realization and healing and evolution, we can share that with others. And that all of that came into that session. So I felt that was so powerful too. And like the feedback that came back from that. And I think it is like in general, the message that we need to know as humans at this time. And it is part like your card, you have to snap me that and send me it, because your card said it perfect. Because when we go beyond the limiting perceptions that we've learned along the way, once that falls away, there's really nothing except perfection.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like you're
Like,
so hang on. Like I just, it's like I've been talking about the like dropping these limiting beliefs, right? That we, or that we have to be, have this or have that in order to like finally be happy and all, which is all that you talked about. But I actually, I'll be honest, when I was listening, because you talk in the first part before you get into the dehypnotizing. I don't want to even call it hypnosis, because you literally are dehypnotizing people. Like it's amazing. And so at first I was just, I'm just like, yes, yes, yes. And then I was just like, you actually made me realize that there were things even, within myself, as because I'm really working at like really awakening my like gifts and abilities that I hold in my Akashic records. And I realized that like, even if from your session, it was like, I in that now moment, I realized that like, even if I were to not remember those gifts and abilities I have, and I'm getting chills just talking about this, it's like, that is okay. I am exactly where I need to be. I am whole. I am like limitless. I am powerful exactly the way that I am right now in this now moment. And it's like, I don't need to like, it's that like when we're living too far into the future, right? Of like, I will just be successful. I'll be happy like once this happens.
yes.
And it's just like,
Yeah.
man, I so needed to hear that. And I fell asleep during the dehypnotizing. Does that matter? Like, should I really do it again?
That's a really good question, because, well, first I just want to say I'm getting chills too, because I love that you saw that for yourself, because as well and great as it is for us to, continue to seek whatever we're seeking, I think that that knowing that, yeah, even if we don't, all of who we are is just coming through everything that we're doing anyway.
Yeah.
Like I love it, because it's like, I think self-help has just made people feel less good about who they are now, and like they always need to improve. And I'm like, but what if we're just good right now as we are? you know but with I think I might have to start calling it dehypnotizing and unhypnotizing again more too, because I love that. I think it's exactly what's happening. But when you're in a state of, because there's two different parts, right? There's like the state of hypnosis, which is just a relaxed state where we move out of the analytical and the logical and into the feeling and the perceiving. So this we could call hypnosis. But then what we do in hypnosis is not hypnotizing someone to believe something different about themselves. It's just unhypnotizing someone from the beliefs that they picked up along the way from our defective
The programs, the
yeah.
limiting beliefs, the like,
Yeah.
you have to like fit in this box in order to be successful, or yeah.
Mhm. Exactly. And so when you fall asleep, here's the thing, is like, even sometimes people on a one-on-one fall asleep. I have been doing a weight well-being group, and people fall asleep in that. Like people fall asleep in hypnosis because it's so relaxing. And the thing to know is that like, well, really right before we fall asleep, because hypnosis is not like in or out, it's like stages. And then once right before you fall asleep is like a super juicy, like spongy space. So whatever you're hearing right before you fall asleep is just, absorbed. And so it's good. It's just that while you're sleeping, you're probably not picking anything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I kind of just like jolted awake and I was like, oh, it's over. Shoot. I'm like, okay.
Oh, but you might not have fallen asleep, because usually what we say is like, what's pretty common is like if you woke up at the end, like if I counted at you back and you came back, you were probably just really deep. Whereas if I counted you back and you didn't come back, although sometimes people are very deep and they don't come back to like 2 or 3 counts.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're going deeper every time now that you've been doing it more too.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
cool. Like I'd never experienced like hypnotherapy before. And I mean, you're probably the only person that I would trust doing hypnotherapy with. Just because I know that you literally are opening yourself up, right? So like,
Yeah.
but I fully trust you, and the fact that you are dehypnotizing, like get all these limiting beliefs out of here, cancel them. I don't want them. They're not mine.
Yes.
Yeah, and so this is part of your free community course that you offer, which is amazing that you do this. But then you also have training sessions as well. Sorry. Did you want to speak about like your upcoming training?
Yeah, sure. One thing I will say is just that the free text messaging community is open to everyone, and it is something that I decided to do because I am the teacher of most all of the hypnotherapists around. So my skills and my abilities can't be really priced at the same price as everybody else's. Just because I know what I can do. And plus I have limited time of one-on-one that I can do. So that was a way for me to be able to give back and be able to provide, support and assistance to those that maybe can't afford or even need the one-to-one support. And then, yeah, so I have been actually training, like certifying hypnotherapists and hypnosis practitioners since 2014. And I am still doing it, but I actually have, since the last 2 years, I moved everything online and I built like a fully live and online hybrid course that I am just in love with, and the quality of practitioners that have been taking it and coming out of it and what they're doing with it. Like today I actually was doing a live with one of my graduates, and she's already got a practice. She's helping people. Like it's another part of my mission to really just help more people get unhypnotized than I can help.
No, sorry.
No. And I think we've probably all seen how over the last couple of years, people have been struggling with their mental health, and I mean, it was happening before, but this is a real solution for, how could I say it? It's like, it's not just about changing beliefs, it's also about healing and letting go and having space to grieve and feel into loss or tragedy or trauma. And that's something my student remind me of today too, because they're getting to see that for the first time, just how it actually works to resolve things. And so that's why I love teaching other people to do it. And as Hypno Heather is expanding, Hypno Heather is becoming Hypno Heather and Co, because it is time for me to move away from some of the work that I've been doing and get more into some of the consciousness and mind and the unhypnotized stuff. So I actually am bringing in someone as an apprentice, and he's going to be helping facilitate. And so it's growing, because it's not even something I necessarily planned to do this long. It's just there's such a need for it. And there's such a, and people are really feeling drawn to purpose-driven healing work.
Yeah.
You know, um, I guess there's a freedom. There's obviously a freedom when you're your own boss. Uh, there's definitely a freedom. There's also like a fulfillment that comes with, you know, and even just a skill. Like sometimes we joke because as hypnotists, we joke because, you know, we kind of have this joke, like, if we miss, if we, you know, if we mess up raising our young ones, we can always help them, you know,
Yeah.
we have the tools to help them later on in life.
Yeah. So true. Oh
It's
man,
sort of a joke.
I'm so glad that you brought up like the mental health aspect of it, because especially within these last, you know, 3 years here, there's been such a huge rise in mental health, in especially with kids struggling. You know, even, sorry, I don't know what's going on with my computer and my camera right now, but even like within, so these last couple of days, what we're seeing happening here in Saskatchewan with all these like alerts happening on our phone, I tapped into like the collective consciousness, and it was just like fear was just rippling through everywhere. It was like all I could fear was this, or feel was this fear. And it was like, okay, here we go. This is another reason why we need people like you doing what you're doing to like unhypnotize people and being able to like realize that you have the power within you to create the life that you want. Are you, so you either are stepping into that fear, making that choice, or you make the choice to not step in the fear and to create the life that you want. But a lot of people need to be dehypnotized from the programming, from the indoctrination, from this constant fear base that we see in society. So that, like, you bringing that up is just, is huge. Like,
Yeah,
for
that's
me,
a
like,
really good point, Tanya, because, you know, I had a moment when all this was happening. So we're getting all of these alerts, you know, of caution. And I had a moment where I was like, oh, should I be afraid? So I had that moment because I wasn't afraid, and I went for a bike ride, and then I came back and I was like, oh, wait, should I have I been afraid? And then I was like, well, wait though, because if I encountered something on my path in reality that would have been fearful, I would be afraid. That would be a natural reaction to encountering something that could be scary.
Yeah.
And this is something, as hypnotists, we work a lot with phobias and fears, and how, you know, most people that you talk to would say, oh, that's in your mind. And it's a really good point, because it is, but doesn't mean you can just turn it off.
Yeah.
If there's like a trigger or an emotional reaction to something. And this is really valid when we look at fear, because if we have like an emotion to something that we think that causes us to feel fear, and then we take the second step and believe it to be true, well, then we're just on a roller coaster of uncontrolled destiny. Like we don't have any control of where we're going from then on.
Yeah, exactly. And
You know?
that's where again, where like when you're truly standing in your sovereignty and your truth, and you come to that realization that like, I am powerful, I am limitless, like I am the creator of my life. When things like that happen, you can easily more, like obviously, like you said, you had a moment, I had a moment too. I actually had gotten a text message from someone very, very special, dear to my heart, and I know her heart was in the right place, but saying like, you know, did you get those messages? You, and you know, my son, stay inside, lock your doors, and da da da. And I was like, again, it was just like, whoa, I can just feel the fear rippling through the collective consciousness.
Yeah.
And then I went out later on in the day to water my garden, and like you, for a second, I was like, oh, should I be doing this? And then it was like, wait, that's not my fear. That's not mine, because I'm not in fear of this, right? Like,
Yeah.
I know that
Yeah.
I'm protected.
Yeah.
I know that, things are okay. Like you said, if something were to happen, you deal with it in that now moment. It's
Yeah.
like you're not, and again, if you are focusing on something, where you put your focus, your energy, that's what's going to come into you, into
Yeah.
your life. So like, I know now, like, I'm not going to focus on living in fear and living in all, or focusing on all these things I don't want to happen. So I was able in that moment to just be like, oh, this isn't mine. I cancel, I clear. And I did like a cleansing. I called on the violet flame, I cleared it. And then I called on my angel guides and was just like, I'm safe, I'm protected. And it was good. The rest, it's just like, but just checking yourself, right? I feel like a lot of times I'm finally starting to come to this place of like checking my emotions. Are these my emotions? Are these like the collective conscious emotions? If they are my emotions, what's going on here? Like, what is actually happening? Center myself first and then go from there. What can I do to change this situation?
Yes. Yeah. I just read something today that said that that's called emotional maturity.
Well, that's good to hear. But it's still like, I mean, it's
like
a daily
having that
process.
ability. Yeah. And having that ability to just stop. This is actually sometimes why I don't really like being kind of pigeonholed as like a hypnotist, because a lot of the work that I do is like, I know my name's Hypno Heather, but like a lot of
Well,
the work that I
Dehypnotized
do,
Heather.
like, oh, I'm gonna have to call myself De-hypno Heather or what?
No, Heather. I like that.
Actually, I don't mind that either. Yeah, because when we like, oftentimes, especially in negative emotion, right? It's just there to show us that what we're thinking isn't, we're thinking something that's outside of our divinity. We're thinking something that isn't actually real.
Yeah.
And this is a message that I do believe is valuable in our society today because of so much anxiety. And anxiety is really generally a worry or a fear of something that hasn't happened yet. Right? So it's like out of our control. And it's actually probably not even going to happen. Never even mind.
You're making so many things up in your head that like you're literally giving yourself the anxiety.
And then the discomfort, if we believe the discomfort means that this thinking is true, well, that's where we're backwards, right?
Yeah.
Because the thinking, it's just showing us that we're getting too caught up in our thinking or believing our thinking. And this is something that I guess always comes into everything I do, even if I'm training the hypnotherapist or, helping them learn how to hold this space, because the most important thing is like being able to hold the space of that knowing that we're all mentally ill in some ways, like I prefer other words for it, like, but the other words aren't really, they're just stressed or anxious or depressed, but it's not that there's something wrong with us as much as like we haven't really learned how to interact and observe our own thinking in a way that doesn't cause us to believe our emotional reactions from it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. And it really ties into like over these last 3 years, like I pulled my kids out of the school system when these got brought in, and I started homeschooling them. And it literally was the best thing that ever happened to us. And we've now kind of moved into more of like an unschooling type of like learning. And I've come to realize that I needed myself to unlearn and deprogram, unhypnotize myself. So when you said like we all kind of have this like, mental illness, it's like, well, yeah, because once you stop and realize like all these things that have been happening to us, like all this control, all this manipulation, all this stuff, like it was done in a way to control, right? To put us in this like docile, to not know our own truth, to not question things, right? Like that's one thing that like I'm learning all these things with my kids. Like there's all these different things that I'm like, ooh, Nikola Tesla, oh, Tartaria, like meditation, breath work, like all these different things. Like, let's learn this together. Like, let's focus on things that like are really gonna help us like in life. And just like coming to this like, yeah, big realization that like I too, you know, even though in school, like school was never my jam, I never really resonated with it. So it wasn't like I didn't really absorb a lot of it, but I mean, programming is all around us, right? There, it's
Yeah.
like everywhere around the music, right? You look at music being tuned to 440 hertz, right? Like that right there is a big thing. Like that's to put you in a docile state. So yeah, you saying that just makes so much sense, because like I too had to like unschool myself, unprogram myself, and start being able to like do my own research and find my truths, like dig in different areas and be like, what is my truth? You know, not that it has to be everyone's truth. Like just because I'm talking about something doesn't mean it, you know, you may not resonate with it or other people may not, but holding space is a big thing too, right? Like just holding that space while somebody's sharing their truth. And I've never been more excited about learning than I have been these last, like, you know, really, I guess like more 2 years. The first year was just like a gong show.
Yeah, for sure.
But these last like 2 years, especially these last like, you know, the last like year and a half has really been pretty amazing, actually.
Oh, it's so true. And there's a couple of really good points there, which is, I think, important to touch upon, which is just like when we come from this place of knowing that we all have access to our own wisdom and to our own inner wisdom, which is our ability to learn for ourselves what's best for us. We're also good with everyone else doing the same. You know, like if that's good for you, great. If that's what works for you. And that's also why, and this is actually more about the coaching work I do, which is like how to move from a dark night of the soul to like just total authenticity, you know, just
Oh, you're
being
giving me
yourself.
chills.
This is like really what you know, this is what I'm like moving towards. And I've been working in for 3 years, just like this way, because I've done that so many times in my life, like rebirth and use tragedy for expansion. And if we really look at the last few years, you know, we've all been in a tragedy. And like you said, to me, I believe just like we're perfect, every situation we encounter isn't perfect. So this is also what helps fear dissolve. Because if everything is exactly happening for my healing, for my evolution, then it's not really scary because it's exactly perfect.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And so when that happens, like I I thought I always knew this. Like I thought I knew this because I would have said, oh, I went through so many rebirths and you know, gone through things and had to kind of reinvented myself or whatever. But this was different. Like this is how I really saw how it's not even, yeah, of course we can make the best of things, but it's actually that it is exactly like the ripe soil for planting the seeds of like having a more fulfilled life, feeling better, feeling more grounded in ourselves, learning for ourselves what we believe and what we want for our families and for our future. And I think that that's kind of been what's been perfect about the last few years.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and
You
that's the
know?
other thing is like, you know, are you going to focus on like all the tragedy and bad stuff, or do you focus on like the growth and everything that has come out of it? And you like, we definitely are vibing on the same vibration, because I wanted to talk about going through the dark night of the soul into coming into your authenticity, because I know that that's what you really focus on. And so that was where I wanted to go with you next, and you just like, you took us in there. So I love it, because realizing like, I mean, I look back at these last 3 years, and if it wasn't for these last 3 years, I would not have gone as deep as I have into my healing, into my, you know, that darkness, those corners that like we brush away and we don't want to look at. And, you know, I was able to take this time of being like completely shunned and pushed out of society, and like have all these friendships and people that I know turn their backs on me. But it actually, it was a gift and a blessing, because I took that time to do the work, to go deep, to like cry for days upon days, and to just like really find like which areas I needed to work on. And I've never been more connected to source, to creator than than I am now, because I went into this darkness, and I, you know, like I needed help through it, right? And I can truly say that like I am finally at a point where I am like my true authentic self. Like I've always pretty much lived that, but you know, there was parts of me that I hid, or that I, you know, was like, oh, that's, you know, people probably would think that's too crazy or whatever. Like there was parts that I hid in myself, and now I'm just like, this is who I am. You know, like if you don't resonate with it, fine. If you do, come on in, you know.
Totally.
Right?
Oh,
And like you, oh, like you said, it's just like realizing like, you know, I feel like some people kind of get caught up in this, like, oh, you've changed, you're not who you were. Yeah, that's the amazing part of it, is that you're finding who you truly are. Like I tell people, like, take yourself on a date, figure out what it is that you want, that you love, that brings you joy. Like, and this is what you teach. Like, this is what, because I know you're big on like doing the hard work and like stepping into your true authenticity and shining your light. And like, you know, it's just, I love it.
So good. I mean, this is really how this conversation got, you know, how we got here, because just having those conversations with you, helped me so much because you always had a way of bringing it to the good, and how it's good, and how all of this is really bringing more light. And I could find that in myself sometimes, but talking to you about it really expanded it for me and really helped me remember, like, and just that confirmation, you know, like, right, like I did feel that too. And I think that's also like part of that whole process. Sometimes I tell my students after, you know, they're certified and I'm helping them start a business, I'll tell them like being yourself is the best marketing technique out there.
Yeah, so true.
You know,
You're gonna
because
attract your people.
yeah, if you're just yourself, and you know, and I really believe that's how we came back together, even though we'd always had similar values along the way. Just being ourselves. It's almost, it's like a rebellious thing to just be yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and especially in the programming of people pleasing and like wanting to fit in, it's like an act of rebellion to just be yourself.
Yeah.
And one thing that did pop in my mind when you were talking is something that I think many people don't realize about the state of hypnosis or being in hypnotherapy, which is, even if I said nothing, you know, if I just helped you to soften into that space where, again, we're letting down these kind of the ego, right? We let down the ego, and it's kind of separation. It's desire for separation and fear and thinking. And when we go into that space, all of this stuff just happens, you know. This is what I think people don't necessarily realize is like just being in that space. And yeah, sometimes we can get there in meditation or in other things, but when we're in there and we're relaxed, there's just like the information and the access. Like, I can't even tell you how many people told me, I've been thinking about changing a job forever. And like, this one just happened. I'm like, well, or like, a lot of people will see very clearly that they need to change their relationship or leave it or put boundaries on a friendship. And I mean, we kind of had the expedited process over the last couple of years, which is here, you weren't doing it
Oh,
fast enough, so boom, 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 boom. You know?
yeah.
But
So true.
generally, it's usually a slower process where people just see things, but they don't even have to be in hypnosis and say, oh my God, I need to quit my job. Like it just happens because they aligned with themselves, or they saw, you know, when we really see like, this is what I need to do for myself, there's no resistance into just doing it then.
Yeah.
People, you know, all the time will either fall in love, or you know, people will come and say like say I've had clients where they're like, okay, we're done, we did what we came to do, like what else can we do? I'm like, what else do you want? You know, and they'll say, oh, more money, but that's not possible. I'm like, okay, if that's what you want, let's do it.
Yeah.
So then this one guy, he comes back for a session and he's like, well, what were we working on last time? I'm like, well, I worked on you making more money, but you didn't believe it was gonna happen. And then he was like, we did. And I was like, yeah. And then he's like, oh my God. So since then, I actually got offered another job for more money, but I didn't want to take that job. So then they paid me more at my other job. So I guess I do have more money.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's those limiting beliefs again, right? Like, and that's where, so I get a lot of people that talk to me about like, I don't know how to meditate, or I can't get into meditation and I have a hard time. And what you do, again, the dehypnotizing, and like you talked about, like putting people in that state, it is a lot like that meditation and helping people to get to that, like that true authenticity again. Like, sorry.
Totally. Exactly. And we can call it whatever we want to call it, you know. um when sometimes I have friends that they do, like they'll do guided visualizations or shavasana at the end of their yoga classes, and they'll ask me, you know, what's the difference? Sounds a lot like shavasana or guided meditation, and the main difference is just the little techniques that we use to drop away, like to get out of the conscious mind. That's the main difference. It's just those little things like sticking the eyelids closed, or open and closing the eyelids, or certain words that we use to just bypass the critical factor faster, essentially, which we can learn to do on ourselves as well. But it's something that, like, I don't think that we can't access it. I just found, even for myself, if I have a guide helping me go there and then sort of showing me, go through that door, or step over here, or imagine this and then do this, something happens. And you know, being a very independent person, I've had to learn this too, because I really just believe that as much as we can access on our own, we're not here to do all of this on our own, and we're not here to do everything on our own. And there's a part of me that always just kind of feels like, right, we can't really get there as on our own, because if not, then when would we reach out? You know, how would we connect? How would we open up to assistance and care and support?
Yeah. And realizing too, like I know sometimes I get in this space of like, you know, why can't I do that, or all these things, and it's like, but this person over here has that gift and that ability, so like, let's support that person, let's connect to that person and let them help you, right? Like, we don't need to be the ones doing all the things, like, you know. And that's where, again, like true community and coming together and like supporting people, and like, you know, you were talking about before, like with the people that you're training, and now people are making their own business of it. Like, that's another thing within these last 3 years that I think a lot of people are starting to realize, like, oh, I really don't want to work for corporations anymore, or I don't want to have things forced on me. I want to be my own boss. And, doing things like realizing like, hey, like I always say, like, you're never too old to like learn. I mean, I'm always learning. I think I'll learn until the day that I leave this
Same,
plane,
same.
and just
How can you not? Like,
right? Like there's always so much to learn.
I
And
have like a 7-year-old that took my course.
really, oh, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Like
super
you're
cool.
so right though. Like even the student or the graduate that I interviewed today, she has a 15-year career in nursing, and she wanted to have a way to really help people heal, to give them, to have the time and the space. And even she was saying, I care so much. Like I want them to get the result. I'll do whatever I can to support them and help them heal. And, just needing to find a way to, like, obviously she was always wanting to help people heal.
Yeah, well, that's why
And
she was a nurse. Like,
yeah, you know, and then the
yeah,
joy that she has. And this was a message that I really felt called to bring to our talk today, which is, it's not a dream. Like having a doing purpose driven work isn't just actually a dream. Like, because sometimes I feel like it's easy to be like, because I do it, and it's easy to be like, this can be yours, this is awesome. But then it kind of just seems like, well, that's not for everyone. Like that's just for someone who's gifted or talented, or something like this. Like this idea that um like I like this is another thing, like, right, fear and doubt mess with our clarity. Because if you have a feeling like you really want to help people, and your work that you currently have is not aligned with that, then your body's probably going to be in pain. There's
yes,
probably a lot of messages that you're getting
yes,
that you probably need to listen to. And this, in my opinion, this is a solution to that. Like becoming a hypnotherapist, because you don't need like a degree, you don't need a diploma. In fact, I've had a lot of psychologists take the training because they also want a way to do that root cause healing, to really heal on the psychological level outside of a conversation, which doesn't get beyond the conscious mind. And that's the message I really felt clearly to say today, which is that it isn't, it is for you if you feel that call. Like if you feel that call to help people, I've seen it hundreds of times in my past students where it's not a dream, like it's actually needed. We need more people that are stepping into the ring, so to
yeah,
speak, and saying, I'll try my best. I'll try my best and help in any way that I can. And often these people are helping or trying to help people in their personal lives anyway, and probably very frustrated and not getting far. And I always say, you know what? You could actually get paid for that and help
yeah,
people that want your help.
yes, right. And that's it, like you said, like this is another time where people have realized, like, I want to help people, yet I'm not truly helping people the way I want to help people in this career that I'm in right now. Just like you
Yeah.
said, like, so people, again, coming into that authenticity, that true, like, asking those questions of what do I really want? How can I really help people in a way that I want to? Which was another door that these last 3 years has opened up for so many people. And it's like taking that step, take that step, walk through that door. Don't wait. Like you talked about in your last session. Guys, I'm going to share all of her links. So get on her community session, do the last session, because seriously, like, don't wait. Stop waiting
Yeah.
till you have this or this or this, or you've reached this
Yeah.
in order to be happy or to have this in your life, because you're always going to be waiting. There's always going to be something that
Totally.
continually holds you back. And I love that you are working on
Mm.
this.
Yeah, and if they want that, just like when they join the text messaging community, when you join, just send me a message like last replay, or like just let me know, because I'll just send it out again. Because I do always record them, and have I am still deciding what to do with them. I might pop them all into a library at some point because they're going to start to add up. But, it's something that now that we've talked about, I feel like we need to share it. So
Yeah.
I will definitely share it with anyone that messages me there.
Well, and you have a
And
YouTube channel too, right? So
I
you never know, maybe
do.
like, because you can upload
I
things to
do.
YouTube, as far as I know, like privately. So then people would just have the link to get to those. So that's not like,
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
so
And
there's,
I have been thinking about sharing one publicly, like even because it is for the community, but it's free, and just sharing so people can get an idea. So maybe this is probably the one that I need to
yeah.
share, because I have been feeling called to pick one and share it.
Yeah, well, this one, yeah, it
Yeah.
was just like, and I'll like, again, I'll be honest, there was parts, and this is where like you're a safe person that I feel like we can have conversations with. Again, there may not be things that we resonate always with everything that people say. So there was parts where I was like, because when you were talking about the like self-love, and like, that you don't have to have that self-love in order to like love other people.
Yeah.
And at first I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I really resonate with that. But then it was also, because like but then as you went on in your talk, I was like, well, yeah, like, I mean, my love for my kids and for like friends and people in my family has always been there, whether I truly loved myself or not. Um, until I am now at a place where I'm truly like giving myself self-love and finding the love and the worthiness that I am, I'm able to now better love them. But it didn't mean that I didn't have that love to get. And so it was like this thing where you literally were like, I was walking through this like progress. Like, I wish you could have been there watching me be like, I don't know, da, da, da. And then you like keep talking, and then I'm like, oh, damn, girl. Like, just like, it was just, and that's what I love. Like, there's just so much that we can learn from other people when you come at it from a place of just being open, and just knowing that like I'm just open to see, what do I resonate with, what am I going to take from this. And then like there's just so many ways that it's just like your mind's blown, and it's just like I mean, if I can encourage you, I think this would be an amazing one to share with the like
Well,
more.
I have to now. Like I like to walk my talk. So if
Yeah,
I'm telling other people, don't think about it, just do it. If you get that nudge,
yeah,
if you get that divine nudge, you gotta do it,
yeah.
So
Nudge,
I mean,
nudge, knocking on that door.
I'm messaging my assistant tomorrow saying,
Yeah,
okay, put this on YouTube because it's gotta happen. And
love
I
it.
love that you said that, because I know that that's a little bit of a sticky thing that I said. And,
I'm so glad you said it, like, because it literally
yeah,
like worked through another layer for me, like,
exactly.
and that's where it's just like, I'm just like, yeah, man. So yeah, this has been amazing. I definitely
Totally.
want to jump on with you again. My little guy is I think he's really needing to, he
For
wasn't
sure.
able
I
to
need
his,
it.
yeah.
That, like, of course, like always when we talk, time just goes like
Oh,
that. I'm definitely up for it again. I love this so much. Thank you so much for
yeah.
bringing me on.
Yeah, thank you. I love it. And it's so true. Every time we have these conversations, I'm like, time warp, what just happened? Like, so awesome.
Yeah.
So again, I'm gonna make sure I put all of Heather's links below. I highly encourage you guys to join her community group. And if you're feeling called, like, reach out to Heather. You share like upcoming training sessions and stuff that you have.
Yeah.
I'm going to share your website as well, so you guys can take a look at it and see, like, maybe a one-on-one session is something you're thinking of. Like, honestly, this, like, what you're doing with this dehypnotizing is huge. Like, I really just think this is a big thing, especially with everything that we've gone on with this last like couple years,
For sure. And
and
there's so
not just
many
couple
channels.
years.
Not
Sorry,
even, yeah. No,
yeah,
I'm just
not
saying
even.
there's so many channels that even if people reach out to me, I can kind of, I have so many places where I can direct and send and share. I have so many resources. I have so many people that can help people. So I like to think of myself as like the conductor in a sense. And I'm like, okay, you can have this, you can have this, you can go here, you can have here. So there's so many options. So definitely reach out if you feel called to, for sure.
I love it. Thank
Uh,
you so much, Heather.
Thank you,
And
Tanya.
yeah, we definitely will have another chat with you soon.
Awesome. I look
Thank you for
forward
your
to it.
patience with, mom life and this weird stuff happening with my computer.
I feel like it was all perfect because everything is
It
perfect.
is perfect, and that's what it is. Like this is mom life. This is, don't stop. Don't stop what you are like planning to do and want to do because of like go with it. Like this is what it's like to be a solo mama, right? And
Exactly.
you are a solo mama with great success. So when people say like I can't do this or I can't do that because I'm a solo mama, there's a lot of solo mamas and dadas in
Yeah.
my life that I'm like, well, you know what? It's drop those limiting beliefs.
Because, if we wait for things to be perfect, we will never do anything.
Exactly. I love it. Perfect words to end this amazing conversation. Heather, I love
Oh,
you. I love
I
you
love
so
you
much.
too. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Tanya.
have a fantastic evening. And like I said, everyone, I will have all of her contacts links in the description. So make sure you go to the drop down of this and find all of her links and have an amazing evening. We will see you guys soon. Take care.
Good night.
Bye.